You're listening to the Unlocking Africa podcast.
And my passion has pretty much been how do we empower businesses in Africa to reach their full potential, to unlock the full economic value that they're capable of. So once we saw the data shows that 9 out of 10 businesses die within a 5-year time frame due to poor financial management, we knew something essential had to be done. So what we did was digitize that entire process, eliminating the fragmentation where you can have the approvals and the automation on one product. How many of these businesses have scaled their operations in terms of headcount in particular since they started using Flex? And almost 40% of our businesses last year that started using Flex by the end of the year.
Stay tuned as we bring you inspiring people who are unlocking Africa's economic potential. You're listening to the Unlocking Africa podcast with your host, Tessa Adamu.
Welcome to the Unlocking Africa podcast, where we find inspirational people who are doing inspirational things to unlock Africa's economic potential. Today, we have another special guest, Yemi Olulana, who is CEO and founder of Flex Finance, which is a technology company that helps African businesses manage their spending more efficiently. Welcome to the podcast, Yemi. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks, Tessa. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. How's your day?
Good. Sunny day here in Lagos. How about you?
Fantastic. Not so sunny here in the UK. I'm jealous. So, I'm sure you've listened to the podcast before, so you know that I like to start from the beginning. So I was hoping that you could introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about Yemi.
Yeah, sure thing, man. Again, thank you for having me. Really great to be on the show. Huge fan of the work you do. And I've listened to a couple of other episodes. So I think you captured it very well. My name is Yemi Olulana. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Flex Finance. And, I'm a 2-time founder. I built and exited a company before Flex. And my passion has pretty much been how do we empower businesses in Africa, to reach their full potential, to unlock the full economic value that they are capable of. My personal big career dashes goal is to empower 50,000 businesses on the continent to hire 1,000 people, which would create 50 million jobs. So, which is why the work I do and the work we do at Flex is centered around helping businesses scale their operations, ensuring they can go from little employees to hundreds to thousands and ensure that they can actually continue to be value add as they are that critical engine to move the continent forward.
Fantastic. So you've given us some great detail there regarding yourself and your ambitions to empower businesses in Africa and your aspiration to empower 50,000 businesses. So if we go from the aspirations to the inspirations, what inspired you to start a company?
I think for me, right, after I left my last startup, I was looking for the next challenge. And I've always known I've wanted to do something for businesses. It has been a very important aspect of my personal journey. And one thing that happened while I was younger, I saw my mom pretty much struggle running the business.
Yes.
And the issue wasn't around revenue or how money comes in. It was pretty much around how does money lead the business. So I sort of reconnected with the problem when I spoke to over 100 businesses. And I saw this prevailing theme around, I have an idea of how money is coming to the business, but I don't know how money is leaving. I'm not sure. I would make X amount in the month, but at the end of the month, by the time I finish all the reconciliation, not a lot is left. So from then on, I began to think, how do you solve this problem? What do we need to build? What does the solution look like to this problem? So after a few iterations, we realized that what the businesses needed was a spend management solution, which is why we embarked on that journey to build spend management solution for businesses in Africa.
Brilliant. So you've given great insight into why you started a business and what you saw from speaking to over 100 businesses. So from those 100 businesses that you've spoken to and the businesses that you're currently working with, what do you see in terms of why efficient spend management is crucial to the growth and success of those businesses?
So to be globally competitive, you need globally competitive tools, right? So if you look at consumer spending, for example, If a consumer decides to spend recklessly, permit me to use that word, they can always bring it to the end of the month and, to the next paycheck, go from paycheck to paycheck. But a business spending recklessly has greater economic consequence, as there'll be payroll issues, people will be laid off, that company cannot continue to add value and create the necessary employment on the continent. So once we saw the data shows that 9 out of 10 businesses die within a 5-year time frame due to poor financial management, we knew something essential had to be done to transform and stem this tide of businesses dying off because they had poor financial management. So there's been a lot of innovation helping businesses supercharge their operations on the collection side, helping them digitize how they collect money, helping them with their record keeping, etc. But where there is a lack of innovation, where we saw the gap in the market is this money is coming in all well and good, but we need this same level of intensity and innovation in helping these businesses monitor how money leaves their businesses. Because there are multiple checks and balances, right? Back to the example of if a consumer wants to spend money, it's one decision maker. The consumer decides, I'm going to spend on X. But if a business wants to spend money, it goes through different checks and balances. This person needs to approve. This person needs to check this. And in a desire to ensure accountability, inefficiencies begin to creep in. So that is why we build technology to help smoothen these inefficiencies and ensure that these businesses can operate very efficiently and can scale proportionally.
So you've highlighted how the spending process in many African businesses are limiting their potential for growth and efficiency. So how does Flex Finance address the challenges of, say, manual and inefficient spending processes that African businesses face?
There are two different parts that we've seen a lot of inefficiencies that Flex movements. One is the approval workflow. That is where a lot of the inefficiencies existed, as a lot of businesses ended up using manual workflows, like in some really, really terrible cases, paper.
Yes.
Where people literally have to write things down and pass it on along. And the best we saw in many businesses were spreadsheets or Google Forms, right? So this led to a lot of fragmentation in the process. So what we did was we built technology to digitize that entire process. So eliminating the fragmentation where you can have the approvals and the automation on one product. The second part is the mode of payment. A lot of them would either need to pay cash or use another payment product, which is pretty much disconnected from the entire system. So you now have different silos of data that are not talking to each other, right? Because after you even got the approvals, you need to figure out how to actually get the payments to the vendor or the employee. I think it's important to highlight here that there are two types of business spend, right? There's a payroll spend and there's a non-payroll spend. So we help businesses manage their non-payroll spend, which could be anything from employee reimbursements to vendor payments. So this complex process of, we need to approve if this is a qualified expense from an employee, or this is a invoice we got from this vendor is correct to make that amount. We help them smooth that entire process by we build a product that helps them digitize their approval workflow. We help them make all forms of payments, be it bank transfer, mobile money, card payments, and we integrate with their entire suite, accounting software, ERP. So we position ourselves as the central nervous systems of these businesses, where they can gather all the essential tools and services they need to seamlessly manage their B2B spend on one product.
Awesome. So you've described how you help companies overcome some of these challenges. So maybe if we look a bit closer at this in terms of, are there any success stories of businesses that you've significantly helped or have benefited from using Flex Finance to manage their spending?
I could go on, Tessa.
Maybe just share one.
So, we get a lot of inbound customer testimonials all the time. I think for us, one of the poster child of our success is one of the leading events company here in Lagos. They're one of the largest and fastest growing. They do things for every big brand or artist you can actually think of. And we actually literally have like a video customer testimonial for this customer in terms of how much we transformed their business and brought sanity. We took the entire system from being chaotic to being extremely clear, where the business owner can plan and streamline their entire operation. One more I must add is one of our customers that had to shut down a branch. So they were growing fast and they needed to expand, and they opened another branch. Sales was good, but this problem of poor financial management, how do you manage your spending, what's going on here, led to huge losses and they had to close down that branch. Right now, because of Flex and because of the tools that we've made at disposal of this business, they've been able to open 4 new branches just because you can centrally control how money moves in these different branches, but still maintain that distributed entity. So I could go on, Tessa. We have lots of different customers that we've been able to transform and bring transparency and ensure that they can actually continue to hire more people and ensure that they can drive accountability in their business and drive transparency. And in times like this where inflation, is spiraling, they can actually have the visibility to make actionable decisions where what costs to cost, what contracts to negotiate, to renegotiate. And yes, so that's a quick overview of numerous customer testimonials.
Fantastic. So I read that you enable businesses to save up to 40% on their monthly spend.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the key features that enable this remarkable reduction of spend?
So I think one key consequence of using Flex is the visibility you get. One customer came upon our platform and he realized he was spending about 10 million naira, something he didn't need to spend on, just because he was able to get that visibility. Because what happened before Flex is that you're not able to find out about things in real time. More often than not, you find out too late, when the damage has been done, when the money has already been wasted. The way we've seen people use Flex to save money is one, they are able to eliminate waste, maybe duplicate invoices, which was very common in many businesses. They paid for something and they end up paying it multiple times. And, pretty much getting visibility on how much you're spending on a vendor. So you're able to have the data to renegotiate. We had a customer that was able to renegotiate their contract to the vendor, say, hey, I spent X amount with you. I should be getting this volume discounts. So because we are able to show them where their money is going in real time, once they log onto our platform, they are able to make these quick decisions that drastically, reduces cost. They're able to set budgets and stick to those budgets and say, hey, we budgeted X for transportation, we budgeted X for running costs. Our system gives actionable intelligence when you are exceeding the budget, when you are exceeding the timeline of what you set to spend on. So these insights and the visibility we give them is what drives the cost reduction.
Thank you for that. So if you go back in time before you were aware that you could enable businesses to save up to 40% on their monthly spend, what challenges did you encounter whilst trying to introduce this tech-based solution?
So I think people were stuck in their ways. They were using the paper system, so introducing technology. But one fascinating thing was that a huge chunk of the customers that we approached had actually tried to find a solution like ours, but there really wasn't anything in the market that could critically solve the problem. So that actually ensured we had like a ready market that was willing to absorb our product and begin to use it to solve their problem, as there pretty much wasn't anything like a spend management solution in the market for a lot of these businesses. But I think one thing we've seen is that businesses are tired of doing business the old way. They've already accepted a lot of technology and automation in other aspects of their business, in terms of collections, in terms of ERPs and accounting software, etc. So it's actually been a situation whereby once you are able to align with the key challenges that they are facing as regards spend management, the reception has been actually really awesome, Tessa.
So you've mentioned there that businesses have now accepted that automation is part of their business process. And we know that automation and categorization of spending data are essential aspects of your solution. So how does the data-driven approach empower businesses to make informed decisions?
So I think one thing we've done is we've been using AI for a bit, even before it became this trendy.
Yes.
Specifically machine learning, helping people categorize, helping people spot anomalies. Let's say, for example, Tessa, you spend a certain amount of money on, let's say, transportation over a certain period or a certain purchase, right? And for whatever reason, the bill is maybe far exceeds the usual amount you would pay for that service. We'll bring it up, right, to your attention, trying to let that, hey, you used to spend, let's say, £100 on this. We notice you're about to spend £300. We just want you to take a double look. So we pretty much do a lot of this processing for the businesses and the key decision makers, that either be the CFO, the financial controller, or the head of operation, and pretty much just take actionable decisions immediately.
Fantastic. So with the data-driven approach that you described, it gives you access to some detailed data. So could you share some of the trends or insights that you've gained from this data with regards to the spending behavior of African businesses?
One thing I would say here, we have a full report on this coming up, I think by next quarter or
Oh,
something.
wow.
So I think while exposure some of the trends in terms of spend, I would say pretty much operating expenditure is up. I think by about over 30% in terms of what these businesses need to spend on, primarily because of inflation. We're seeing them needing to spend more on, especially transportation, due to some of the obvious things you would think of due to the fuel hike. We're seeing them need to reacting pretty much proactively in terms of powering their infrastructure, in terms of diesel. Some of them having to buy in larger quantities to try to stabilize the cost. But that also means, for example, that capital is being tied now. So let's just say X to run my office, for example, I had to buy 100 liters of diesel. Because of how volatile this cost might be over time, I might probably want to bump that up to maybe 200 or 300 more so I can actually buy that at a stable price and be able to plan. But that means more of the cash flow is being tied down to critical things and is unavailable for other parts. So we're pretty much helping businesses navigate this inflation period in terms of how they can judiciously and strategically manage their resources to ensure that they are able to remain competitive.
You've shared the trends and insights that you've gained from a diverse range of companies across a diverse continent, Africa. So what considerations did you have to take into account to ensure Flex Finance is, adaptable and effective across different businesses?
I think for us, right, we're obsessed with talking to our customers. We want to know what they're thinking. We want to know what they want. We want to know what challenges they are facing. So we periodically have different types of modes of interacting with our customers, be it surveys, be it one-on-ones, be it site visits, because we actually want to have as much of a pulse as possible and to ensure we are building the right things to help them solve the right problems. And I think for us, right, we are gradually going up market. We're seeing a situation whereby much larger companies are coming to us to solve this B2B spend problem, which is very, very exciting. That also gives us a more data pool pretty much in terms of what to build. And we see the consequence of this, not only with these new customers that are coming on board, but with how we are able to serve our existing customers and how they're excited with some of the things we launch to get their feedback on it. So I think for us, right, we spend a great amount of time interacting with them, talking to them, and asking the right questions. So we ensure that we have the right answers to go on. It's important to ask the right question, right? You could ask leading questions that give you corrupted answers and you're like, oh yeah, I knew I was right. But we spend a lot of time crafting the right questions to ensure that we kick our biases out of the door as much as possible. And we get that unfiltered response from our customers to ensure that we're building the right things for them.
Fantastic. So you mentioned that you're seeing bigger customers or businesses approaching you to help solve their business spending needs or issues. So are there any specific industries or sectors within Africa that you're seeing greater demand for your services?
I think, for us, one is the agricultural value chain, for example. It could be agricultural processing, agricultural farms. We have a lot of demand across that value chain. That's one. Two is the manufacturing sector. And the manufacturing sector is a key sector for us. Some of the fastest growing manufacturing companies you can think of are our customers or in our pipeline. And also the logistics sector. So we have a lot of customers from the real sectors that are very exposed to inflation and all the other elements you can think of that makes business operations quite volatile.
Brilliant. So you've mentioned some key sectors there in terms of agriculture, manufacturing, and logistics, which all contribute to the economic empowerment in Africa. So how would you say Flex Finance aligns the broader goals of, say, financial inclusion and economic empowerment in Africa?
I think for us, right, a key part of financial inclusion is transparency, which is one of our theses. I think the more transparency you can drive within an organization, the more transformation can take place. Because, transparency drives insights. Where there's lack of insight, when there's lack of visibility, you don't have a lot to go on. You don't have a lot to make decisions on. So I think for us, the more these businesses can drive transparency and visibility with our solution, the more they'll be able to scale, right? Which is a key metric for us. It's a vanity metric we track at Flex. How many of these businesses have scaled their operations in terms of headcount in particular since they started using Flex? And almost 40% of our businesses last year that started using Flex by the end of the year has scaled their operation in terms of personnel, in terms of maybe new locations. So for us, we believe that broader financial inclusion of bringing people into the financial ecosystem, which a key way to do that is to give people jobs as they will get paid and you can encourage them to take it digitally. As we help these businesses, which are the core of the industrial revolution we seek on the continent, scale their operation, I think it's an intended consequence of sort of financial inclusion.
Brilliant. So you mentioned something key, which is transparency drives insight and growth. Transparency is also key for collaboration. So I was hoping you could probably discuss some of the collaboration and integration aspects of, say, Flex Finance with the existing financial systems.
I think for us, one of the most exciting developments that happened, I think, towards the end of last year was the open banking framework that was released by the regulator. I think, which is a very important move to drive collaboration between fintechs like us and established players like banks. It's a very important move. And I think for us, like we partner with the existing financial infrastructure because we want to make the migration to our solution as seamless as possible. So we have a lot of existing banking partners that make it extremely seamless and easy for businesses to come on with our solution and just start digitally managing their spending. And so partnership with the financial ecosystem is pretty key for us, working with other fintechs, working with banks to ensure that this very important mission of ensuring businesses are empowered with the spend management solution has all the necessary allies for us to reach these businesses. Because for us, we know how important this is to the industrial revolution we seek on the continent. A lot of work is already being done by other players in the market, and we want to collaborate with them and not reinvent the wheel to ensure that we are all on the same side advancing this mission.
Thank you for that. So you've mentioned integrating with banks and other fintechs has been key. We know that the finance industry is heavily regulated. So were there any regulatory challenges or hurdles that you have to or are having to overcome in order to do what you are doing?
So I think we've been very proactive with regulation. So I think that's the best way to approach the regulators, be very proactive. And I think for us, that has been an edge for us and ensure that we haven't had these hurdles that you've actually mentioned. Proactively working with regulators, proactively working with partners to ensure that our relationship is as seamless as possible, to ensure that we have dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's necessary for us to have this have the necessary requirements and permissions to empower businesses with the digital spend. So I think that's what has driven our compliance and our strategies in-house.
Fantastic. So I guess if you stick on the theme of finance investment, so have you received any outside investment that has enabled you to grow and kind of secure your position within the market?
Yes, we raised a pre-seed round. We also received some great support from the Mastercard Foundation and the Action Venture Labs, Bearwood Capital, Kairos Angels, Lofty Inc., and Sahil Lavenger, founder of Gumroad, Julian Shapiro. So we've actually received some venture capital funding that has made our work accelerated our work to empower businesses to digitize their spend.
So if we go back in terms of the businesses or customers that you work with and how they were previously spending or in terms of their business spending, in your opinion, what role do you believe financial literacy plays in businesses being able to make the most out of spend management solutions like Flex Finance?
In terms of financial literacy for business owners, a lot of them tend to learn on the job. And they tend to spot all these gaps and pretty much have like a reactive approach to some of these things. So our mission at Flex is to make financial literacy as embedded as possible, where you could pretty much use a solution that just makes you financially literate, right, and gives you all the actionable insights and abstract you from the entire complexity of whatever path you would have needed to take previously. to be financially literate. And it's a core of the value proposition that Flex actually offers our customers, because they find themselves knowing more about their business, which makes them more business knowledgeable. If they find themselves having more information to make the better decisions, to know what to, like, for example, one of our customers that I mentioned said the business is actually able to keep more money aside since they started using Flex. So as much as I spend management solution, we've actually already impacted the savings of the organizations now, where they have sort of like a treasury they can keep money in and pretty much manage their spending. So I feel like the way to drive financial literacy in business is to build technological tools that abstracts the complexity and just gives them the results. Like, you see how you don't need to be an AI expert to use ChatGPT 3, for example, right?
Yes.
They've abstracted all the different complexity, and we can all have the benefits of using this amazing technology. That's how we see ourselves in terms of driving financial literacy.
Fantastic. So do you offer any type of educational material or content that enables your customers to become more financial literate in business spending?
We have a great content team that's beyond the implicit knowledge that our products drives for these businesses based on the insights we provide them. We have a great content team that is sending valuable and important content to our customers via our blog or emails.
Fantastic. So I guess looking at currently what's happening within the space that you operate in, are there any trends that you're seeing in Flex Finance's clients' business spending that you're currently excited about?
Oh, yeah. In terms of like some of the trends we're seeing, for example, I think businesses are rising up to the occasion and making the necessary adjustments to deal with the current macro environment. And I think for us, like, active to any business that's still alive in this climate, to be honest, doing business is already a full contact sport. Then when you are dealing with the elements like inflation and other rising costs, for you to actually still be in operation is something we applaud each of our customers for each day. And I think pretty much seeing them rise to the occasion, seeing them cutting the right cost and ensuring that they operate efficiently is something that we're actually very, very proud of at Flex, as we've been able to play for the role we've been able to play to empower them to make these decisions in this time.
Fantastic. So if we move from the current trend and look at the future of Africa, where do you see business spending in Africa in, say, 5 years' time? What will it look like?
There's a report by Brookings Institute that expects spending to go from like 1.6 trillion today to over 4 trillion by 2030, which is just like 7 years away, right? One thing I would say is B2B spending is growing very rapidly, and the rate of innovation needs to keep up, if not surpass that growth rate, to ensure that we are able to not only capture this opportunity, but empower the businesses on the continent, make good use of this opportunity. Because there's a lot of value to be unlocked in tools that help businesses manage their B2B spend. Just like we've seen the value that has been generated for helping businesses accept money, and multiple values in terms of bookkeeping, in terms of financing, etc. There's a wave of opportunity that can actually be captured by these businesses once this critical aspect of their business operation is properly catered for. And we're excited to be in this industry and to pretty much pioneer this on the continent in terms of empowering businesses to take charge of their spending.
Fantastic. So you mentioned that there is a projection of African business spend reaching $4.2 trillion.
Yes, annually, correct.
Yeah, by 2030. So how do you envision Flex Finance contributing to this growth?
Just like how we've seen the advent of digital payments in Africa, especially in Nigeria, giving rise to the rapid increase in online payments, right? We strongly believe the infrastructure that we are building to help businesses manage their spending is going to accelerate the growth of B2B spend. As more of this B2B spend is able to come online, as more of it is able to become digital, as we are able to drive more visibility and transparency in this space. So just like how the NIBS infrastructure, for example, drove the innovation of P2P or back-to-bank transfers, or the advent of Paystack pretty much unlocked a new horizon of value in terms of online payments. Because if you look at the value of online payments that was being done when Paystack launched and the value of online payment now, it is obvious that a lot of work has been done in terms of creating infrastructure for the industry to grow. So Flex is doing something similar where we are building the infrastructure on the continent to help accelerate the growth of B2B spend, while we not only create value, but are able to capture it.
Awesome. Great work. So we're coming towards the end of the conversation, but there's one question which I ask each guest. It's a bit different to the rest of the questions.
Quote of the week.
As people, we often have quotes, mantras, African proverbs, or affirmations that keep us going when times are challenging or when times are good. Do you have one that you can share with us today?
I think there's one quote that I really love. I think it's Shakespeare or Julius. I can't remember why. It goes, "There's a tide in the affairs of men on which taking upon the flood can lead unto great fortune." And it's pretty much centered around capturing the wave of opportunities as they come. If you're a surfer, right, you have to time the wave, right, to actually ride it, and so you can actually get the reward and the glory of riding a great wave. There's a great wave of growth in the B2B spend industry, and really excited to be riding that wave with my team. And I'm excited for the great value that we are, an opportunity that we are able to capture, and the growth opportunities that exist. So that's what I'll leave you with, Tessa. I hope it was fair enough.
That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. As we're coming to the end of today's conversation, I was wondering if you have any closing remarks, final calls to action for people who are interested in the work that you're doing.
I really encourage businesses to take B2B spend very seriously. We want to abstract that complexity and that headache of managing it manually, and we're here to help. We want to support you. We want to be your partner in ensuring that you're able to focus on your core business, your core operation, and not have to worry about where your money is going, who's spending what. We want to help you manage your business spending in Africa, no matter where you are on the continent or in the world. And we'd love to talk to you and we'd love to help. So feel free to reach out.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for joining us on the podcast today. Your insights into the pressing challenges faced by African businesses in spend management, as well as this innovative solution provided by Flex Finance, has shed a lot of light in terms of what can be done to improve this area for African businesses. So it's been a pleasure speaking to you, and I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Likewise, Cesar, I had a really great time. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you for joining us, and we will speak soon.
Definitely, Cesar. Definitely.
Thank you to everyone who has listened and stayed tuned to the podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share, or tell a friend about it. You can also rate, review us in Apple Podcasts or wherever you download your podcast. Thank you, and see you next week for the Unlocking Africa podcast.